This video is sponsored by myself. Just hit subscribe and the like button. Thank you. So it's definitely been some time since I've uploaded a video. Sorry about that. But as the title suggests, yes, I recently picked up the Sony A7IV. I also picked up the Tamron 28-70 f2.8, and I love this camera. I pre-ordered it back in September, whenever. But once the pre-orders went live, I set it up. And it arrived about a week ago. And yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic camera. However, I wasn't originally going to pick up this camera. Back in 2020, I've been looking for a brand new video camera to do YouTube, as well as some work with it, client work, documentary work and stuff. But of course, the world still isn't quite there yet to be fully traveling, at least internationally. I've done a little bit of travel. I'm no longer in California. I originally wasn't going to buy this camera. There were a couple other on my list that I was going to buy pretty much like immediately had the world opened up and I was able to travel. So I picked up the A7IV now because it finally came out and it suited all the needs that I needed pretty much. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the cameras that I was originally going to pick up. And I'm going to be looking at my phone a little bit because Notion, I love Notion. I've been using it a lot lately. So the Canon R6, which is probably the direct competitor to the A7IV, at least in the mid-tier, not really entry level, but like the mid-tier category, the hybrid shooter cameras. And I love the colors out of Canon. I think Canon's color science when it comes to photography is absolutely beautiful. That's why I usually see, at least from like professional friends and stuff, they still use Canon when it comes to studio work, when it comes to just clientele work. I feel like people still kind of gravitate towards Canon for the most part because of that color science. The Canon R6, people say it was like plagued with overheating and even just in like the normal 4K modes, but that wasn't going to be a big problem for me because of the way I shoot. I'm really short clips, that kind of stuff. From what I've seen is that from the firmware, it's pretty much fixed now. So I don't think overheating is that big of a problem when it comes to the Canon R6. The biggest problem for me of why I didn't go with the Canon R6 wasn't the overheating. It wasn't the form factor. I actually really like the big form factor of it. It's RF lenses. Now, I'm not talking about image quality. I'm not talking about build quality. The RF lenses are beautiful. Like literally probably the best currently until Sony and the other manufacturers kind of update their lenses. To me, I think the RF lenses are probably the best native lenses out there right now. However, they're just too big and way too expensive for me in my budget. If the RF system had more third-party lenses, I probably would have gone with the R6. I know you can adapt with EF lenses and stuff, but those are starting to get kind of old when it comes to focusing and just the speed of them. But if the RF lenses were a lot cheaper, if the third parties were making more RF lenses, which I think they are in the future, I probably would have gone with the Canon R6. However, if you're into photography and stuff, I still think this is probably like the best like client photography camera out there. 20 megapixels is perfectly fine enough. Even with this like 33 megapixels, I think is like a bit too much for me. But definitely I think Canon R6 is the best camera to go with if you're mostly doing photography and you have the money to pay for those RF lenses, because I don't. I'm poor. All right, the other camera that I was really looking forward to or looking at was the Panasonic S5. This is probably the best video camera out of all of these that I'm going to be talking about. Beautiful colors, vlog. It just gives so much more leeway to video creators and videographers with the amount of like stuff that they have with it. I believe like 6K raw output. You can do B-raw. You can do pretty much like all of those like very easily through the S5. Like I said, the color science is great. There's a lot of upward movement when it comes to the system. So with the L mount, you could go to the Panasonic S1H, which is literally a cinema camera for like half the price of like competitive amount. So I think the L mount system's pretty great. But with the S5, the one thing that pretty much a lot of people just won't buy this camera for is its autofocus. If you are behind the camera, it's great. You don't have to worry about autofocus at all. If you're a one-man person like me, where you're in front of the camera, behind the camera, sides, camera, whatever, you need that autofocus. For right now, when I'm looking at this A7 IV, it's been tracking my eye the entire time. Hopefully there's been no like jumping in the background or anything. And the S5 with its contrast-based autofocus, I believe it's called, it's just too slow for me. And it's not accurate enough. So if I was a person who was behind the camera doing client videography or corporate or whatever, if you're always behind the camera, you should go for the S5. I believe it's even cheaper right now than the A7 IV. Doesn't have a crop, or it still has crop 60, but with all the other video features like RAW support and just the ease of use when it comes to getting like really high detailed footage, definitely go for the S5 if you don't need to care about autofocus. And now the camera that probably I was like incredibly close to buying, pretty much like was in my Amazon cart or my B&H cart or whatever, like the entirety of the past like year and a half, was the Fujifilm X-T4. If you watch my channel before, you know that I shoot primarily on my X100F as my street photography camera, my travel camera, my everything camera. You know that I love Fuji colors. I love the ease of use when it comes to creating just beautiful images from Fujifilm. However, when it came to the X-T4, it tried to be the hybrid camera that a lot of people wanted it to be, but I've heard so many stories of it being finicky when it comes to stuff like autofocus, like the jumping in the background, or audio problems here and there. I know it's gotten a lot of firmware updates, but it was so close. It was so close to being the perfect hybrid camera, but just the autofocus and the IBIS was a bit jumpy. I think like the XS10 had better IBIS than the X-T4, even though that's like an entry-level camera for Fujifilm. I love Eterna. I love Eterna through the X-T4. I think Eterna is like one of the most beautiful profiles ever. I'm currently using S-Cinetone, and it's great for just out of camera, but Eterna, man, that is a beautiful, beautiful film simulation on the X-T4 and the X-T system and stuff. I'll probably buy one eventually, though. I feel like it could be a great match with my X100F for purely photography and some creative video stuff, but I think I'll probably buy one eventually when it goes on sale or when the X-T5 comes out, and then I'll buy an X-T4, or I might buy an X-T3. But I definitely want to get more into the Fujifilm when it comes to strictly photography and like creative photography, like street work and that kind of stuff in the future. So why did I buy the A7 IV? Well, because it's easy to do exactly what I'm doing right now, which is press record. I can film myself. I'm in auto, like the autofocus is perfectly on my eye right now. I can see. I can just aim the camera at anything and it's just gonna lock on. I can tap the screen. It's pretty much, I believe, like I think Patrick said, that it's a cinema camcorder. I literally just point it at whatever, it hit record, locks on autofocus. It's just the ease of use when it comes to this camera for a one-man person like me who's going to be filming myself, filming other things, filming other people, making YouTube videos, making client work, making stuff for my salary job. It's pretty much just like the all-around best camera for just that. It's a jack of all trades, and it's definitely not a master of like any of that. It just creates a great 4K image with great autofocus. And that's kind of all I need. I don't really need too much more of the other stuff of the other cameras that I talked about. And I just need it to do like that one thing of just filming myself and it being perfect all the time. So I'm really happy that it's able to do that. I don't really see myself using it too much for photography. A lot of Sony photographers kind of get flack, but I'm not going to talk about that. But yeah, I don't see myself using this much as a photography camera. It's probably going to be mostly video, mostly for filming myself, for travel stuff. If I need it in a pinch or it needs to go, like I need a bigger focal length than just my X100F, then I will probably use it for photography. Or if I need to do some like headshots of people or like a few things, I think 90% of the time it's going to be filming myself or filming documentary stuff in the near future, which is definitely one I want to do. When it comes to the crop 60, I don't shoot in slow motion pretty much like ever. I know a lot of people do, like wedding photographers and videographers use the slow motion a lot. I tend to think it's kind of a gimmick for the type of stuff I like to make. I like stuff being more in real time, 24p, that kind of stuff. So I don't really care about the crop 60. It's whatever to me. And a lot of people might think, oh, well, why didn't you go for something like the A7S3? It's too expensive for me. That's pretty much it. Bit too expensive. I like the quality out of this. It's beautiful. I only shoot 24p. I don't need the 4K 120 FPS. I don't need the 4K 60 uncropped. So this is just like, it's literally perfect for me. So this camera will probably be my workhorse going out from here on out. I love this camera so far. It's easy to just set up, make a video, and yeah, it's probably the biggest reason why I bought this. I've got a lot more content coming out this year. I definitely want to be more proactive and make more content on this channel. So definitely stay subscribed, like the button, whatever. And I'll see you next time. We're going to go ahead and talk about the X100F again next week. So stay subscribed for that. Thank you and later.